why I'm saying I will fight cartels is that I will do what I know there is a program for leasing for those factories, which is ongoing, which has been initiated, and I know there's a process. I have to check what stage they are in. Sugar is one of the major subsectors. We will look at it and see how we can move it very fast forward.
They are requesting and they are asking to hear from you as a cabinet for agriculture. What plans do you have?
It's just a nominee.
Yes, a nominee.
Yes.
What plans will you have if you are nominated on perishable goods like tomatoes, sukuma wiki, cabbage, in their market at the local end tail market?
Yes, Murugara.
Just let's combine this. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let's combine this with the great people of Meru and Embu. The crop they have, the cash crop called Mira. We've not spoken about this. Mira has a lot of issues because in our statute books, it's a lawful crop, and we can't take that away from them. In the neighboring countries like Tanzania, they say it isn't a lawful crop and therefore you can't export it there. Recently, some counties in the country started saying, sorry, they don't welcome it there. It's not a crop, it's other things which they possibly were imagining. And at the end of the day, there is a bit of uncertainty regarding the crop Mira in the country. Now, what policies would you put in place to ensure that at least in the country, Mira, which is Mira and Buuka, which is a lawful crop, does not suffer the consequences it suffered recently? I am asking the nominee, not you.
Speaker, maybe just to supplement what the Honorable Mula is asking, the nominee could tell us, leveraging from your experience with the World Bank and other donor organizations, including the EU that you've worked with, how would you help to harness resources? Because what Honorable Mula is asking is critical. I know government, through the markets that are being developed, they have cold storage facilities for dealing with the perishable products like the tomatoes Honorable Mula is asking. But how would you leverage that to ensure that we even access more resources from the donor community in the local areas, not just at the local markets, to have cold storage facilities around the farms, so that when farmers harvest their tomatoes and the price is bad, they can store them there to await for the value addition that you spoke to, that will benefit many of our young people. But also, you mentioned something that you worked on livestock insurance. I don't know whether you said you did that working with the EU or with the World Bank. And the president has already considered to the country one of the problems that his former cabinet had was a failure in communication. I don't know what you will do as, if approved as a cabinet secretary, to ensure that there is proper communication to Kenyans on that livestock insurance that you worked on in your consultancy life, to increase the uptake of this livestock insurance, because the uptake is still very low. Many farmers still lose their livestock during the drought and floods, but they don't know that there is such a product. And what would you do to communicate better to ensure there is better uptake of that product around the country?
Yes, Daktari, we're running out of time on you. Can you answer quickly those Last interventions.
Yes, thank you, Honorable Speaker. On perishability, I think the leader of majority has helped in that, saying that yes, there are programs which are run on markets. Definitely, we at the value chains, as we look at the value chains, definitely one of the interventions is to make sure that we minimize the post-harvest losses, because that is cuts across the board, tomatoes and perishables and even other crops. So minimizing post-harvest losses is a part of food security, because why do you spend a lot of time, money and time and then you lose it along the chain? So we will look at the programs which can be able to help with, with the issues to do with the perishables. Mera Mogoka, I know there is a problem, there is an issue between the producing counties and the consuming counties. And what can happen? Yes, this one is a big issue, and as the incoming, if I'm approved, is the issue is about dialogue. The two sides have to sit down and see how best to sort it out. And I'll be a good, if I come in as an CS, I will be an arbitrator. Yes.
Yes, Dr.
The other issue is about livestock insurance from the leader of majority and proper communication. Yes, if I am approved, I'll promote that insurance. I worked on this concept from the World Bank and the EU side. We need to promote it. But generally, Mr. Speaker, sir, I would also like to say that there are many things which are happening in the ministry and the docket, but communication has not been good. So if I am approved, one of the areas I'm determined and I'm prepared to do is to improve on communication, so that the members of the public knows what is going on. Thank you.
Yes, Dr. Let me ask you just 2-3 questions. Number one is just a follow-up. The sugar industry in particular and many other crops, you said you have been in the research sector as well. If you look around the country, research in our food and crop production is virtually dead. The sugar research, dead. Rice, coffee is limping, name it. Tell Kenyans and give them hope how you are going to revive the component of research to improve crop production. Number two, maize farmers. Our maize farmers are very hardworking. They suffer when they produce less. They suffer even more when they produce more because of market. What are you going to do in terms of policy intervention to create a proper marketing system and program for maize and other cereal farmers in the country? Did I hear you say you participated in the creation of AFA?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Are you aware that now, out of the outcry for the failure of AFA to manage the agricultural sector, it is being dismantled? There's been a Tea Act now, born out of AFA. There's a sugar bill coming to the end, born out of AFA. There's a request on my table for a maize bill, moving away from AFA. There's a pyrethrum bill, moving out of AFA. And all this dismantling of AFA, does it point to your error of judgment in your previous engagement, that you as a consultant advised and participated in amalgamating all agricultural activities into one humongous act that didn't work and is now crumbling?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On research, I think, let me say on the onset that this is research is a mandate of the national government, and I agree with 100% with you. It has not been well in research. When you look at Karo, you look at coffee, you look at all the other sectors. And mainly, we have the capacity in terms of human resources. We have the infrastructure. Mainly, it is the issue about financing. And coming in, if I am approved as a cabinet secretary and coming from research, I will put my best foot forward, especially on the exchequer side, so that we convince the National Treasury that agriculture research is very vital. If you don't have research, you don't have technologies. You don't have, so that we can get more resources going towards research, both in all the crops. Secondly, is the issue about farmers' participation in research. If you look at coffee, tea, they used to have a foundation where I used to work. Farmers were very happy. They used to contribute very gracefully. But that has ended. So we have, if I am approved and I come back as a cabinet secretary, I have to look at how can we involve the farmers better in terms of management of research and their role in financing. Maize farmers. Yes, the maize farmers, the issue about marketing system. We know the major player here is National Cereals and Produce Board and the millers who participate in marketing of maize. So it's an area where the government has intervened in terms of giving the inputs so the supply increases, but when it comes to mopping up, it has become a problem. Because one of the areas which the challenge there, Honorable Speaker and members, is that when you try to push the prices up, the consumers are losing. So there's a dilemma there. So it's an area which is dicey and it requires careful consideration, and I'll give it my due attention. In terms of AFA, the original principle was okay, in that you try to, just like we have in energy, we have an energy regulatory authority. We wanted the same, and if you go to other countries, and honorable members have pointed out that in other countries we need to copy what is working. If you go to India, if you go to Brazil, they have one authority controlling a lot of agriculture activities. What is, and I'm convinced is, one of the issues which came through is the way it was amalgamated, it was the way it was structured, and the way it came out in that we were not able to give due attention to all the commodities as they were supposed to be. The original idea was okay. It is the execution part which was challenging. And that is why you are finding everybody wanting to go back because to their own original arrangements. Because in principle, honorable members, Mr. Speaker and honorable members, you'd agree with me, it is more efficient to have one organization where you can have common services. But the feeling of the various stakeholders in various commodities is that they
Why
want to go
do you
back.
think it didn't work? And what are you going to do about it?
Well, it didn't work because the issues coming from various commodities, for instance, coffee, tea, amalgamation of other like sugar, we brought different commodities, different subsectors at different levels and there was no effort made to make sure that they are entering at almost at par. So, be it as may, if I'm approved, is to look at what is going on, to see what the stakeholders are saying, because we have to go with the stakeholders. If they say today we want tea, you cannot force them on alpha. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Jeanette?
Speaker, this is what one of the public members is saying. Dr. Andrew Muya Karanja, Ministry of Agriculture, CS nominee, says that we will always have sugar deficit, always. Isn't there a government policy that will become we become self-sufficient across all sectors in agriculture? How can Eswatini, former Swaziland, which is smaller than Elgeyo Marakwet County, be one of the biggest sugar exporters in the world? Asian countries like Vietnam never had coffee, yet it's now one of the biggest coffee exporters in the world. Thailand took palm trees from Nigeria and is now one of the biggest palm tree producers in the world. Problem of Kenya is total absence of initiative to change the status quo. Why then be a Minister of Agriculture if you believe that you will always be importers of sugar? And the rest I don't want to say. Then he said, he told you, how can he actually say we will always be sugar importers? Nyanza province alone can produce more sugar than Eswatini or Sudan.
There are many others, Dr. Is one asking, I'm a vet, the most neglected arm of agriculture is veterinary services. What are you going to do? And many others.
Sure, let me ask.
Yes, Mukami?
Yeah, there's another one. We have a weakness in the sale of coffee at NC, which allows the buyers to offer prices below the reserve price to force a negotiation with co-farmers outside the trading for 24 hours. These are practiced every auction day. What are you going to do about it?
You can respond to those.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Honorable Junet is to say, if I implied that we always have a deficit, that is not my intention. I was saying maybe for now, the situation we are in now is we have a deficit. But going forward, definitely, we will put measures to improve on productivity, the reforms in the sugar sector, which are undertaken, so that we become self-sufficient. I'm sure we can be able to get self-sufficiency. So if it was construed like that, then that is not what I meant. The issue about the coffee, the cartels, and the colluding in prices.
You already said you'll dismantle them.
Yeah, I'll dismantle them.
Yes. And improve on the veterinary.
The veterinary, yes, it is. I know I was briefed that, Mr. Speaker, sir, that they are registered under many legal instruments. So we are going to, if I am approved, we are going to work with them to see that, because they are very critical. Veterinary services is very critical, especially on the livestock side.
Thank you. And if in case we approve your nomination, don't be limited or curtailed by the boundary between the county governments and the national government, because you have a duty on formulating policy that helps this ministry, all its departments across the country, both at the national level and at the county levels. I'll ask you a few minor questions, but none the less important. Dr. Karanja, have you ever been adversely mentioned in any integrity-related report?
No, Mr. Speaker, sir.
There is a man, Onyango, who has written saying your conduct and integrity as a nominee is not good because you have faced one or multiple allegations of unethical behavior and participation in corrupt and illegal activities. Is it true?
Not
he has
true.
provided no evidence, but that's what he says.
That is not true, Mr. Speaker, sir, because yes. I have never participated in such kind of activity.
Do you hold any leadership position in any political party?
No, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Within Kenya?
No, Mr. Speaker, sir.
What is your net worth?
My net worth is 214 million shillings.
Yes, made out of?
Made up of my residence, my family residences. Mm-hmm. We have apartments. I have vehicles. We have plots and land. I have deposits in a bank account.
Okay. Yesterday, we had 5 candidates. We asked them many questions, ending with this minor question on their net worth. But the media only picked the net worth and forgot everything else. We want the media to be fair to both the candidates for appointment and the committee, because we are not here to evaluate the wealth of candidates. We are evaluating their suitability to hold public office to which they are nominated. Yes. Yes.
Just one thing, Honorable Chair. The last time when I was in the energy sector, KenGen came up with a policy. They wanted to start doing production of ammonia in Naivasha, which is a very big byproduct for production of fertilizer. Maybe Dr. Karanja can tell us whether, instead of, because the biggest chunk of our fertilizer is imported, and if we could be able to produce ammonia, which is a very, very big component in fertilizer production, then maybe that can go towards addressing most of the fertilizer issues. Thank you, Chair.
That's good information for you, Dr. Karanja. You can go with it, and we'll now release you. Go with your original documents after having been checked with what we have in our possession and found to be correct. Have a good day.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, and I would like to thank you and all the members for the good engagement. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Agent, you can escort the nominee.
Mr. Speaker, on that issue of declaration of wealth, you know, since our media colleagues are here before the other nominee comes in, I know it's the newspapers that largely reported on it, which is okay, because it's part of the vetting process. You know, if these honorable members also here declared their wealth, there are others who are worth much more than that. Like my friend here, Junet. I know if he was to declare his wealth, having been a member of parliament and a businessman of many years.
Mr. Speaker, that is being malicious, Mr. Speaker, and he has been sent to finish me. Yeah, I don't know by who.
My only concern is that you asked the candidates many incisive questions, and the question of their worth was at the tail end of every interview. And even the candidates gave very clear explanations, like Soipan said, her growth is because of the appreciation of the assets that she had. And I believe it applied to everybody. But what we see in the headlines is totally different.
In fact, the Honorable Soipan said appreciation of land and a house she has acquired in Nairobi. And I think it's important for the public to also know all these cabinet secretaries once appointed into office, just like members of parliament, access mortgage facilities to buy a property in Nairobi if you didn't have one. Soipan has also been a member of parliament for 3 terms. So it's fair because maybe next time it will be, these members here will be here being vetted to appreciate that Honorable Mary Amase has been a member of parliament for 3 terms. Whatever she is worth, and she also has other consultancies she does and other businesses.
What about me 6 terms?
We will only question what you will own if you are to declare here.
Mr. Speaker, on the same breath, even Honorable Soipan went ahead and declared even the loans. And if you look at her declaration, she has a loan of 49 million shillings, which is not yet paid and removed from the net worth. So we need to be sensitive on some of these.
Speaker, yes. Chairman. Honorable Speaker, I just said I think it's also important for members of the media to understand that the fact that you own properties or your net worth is high is not a disqualification, or it does not make you unsuitable. And the fact that you declare your wealth is not for use now, but for use in future. If, let's say, your wealth that you declared at the time of entering office, if there is alleged corruption against you, that is used to assess whether you legally acquired the property while in office. So it's not for use now. Similarly, the wealth declaration form, the wealth declaration form and the self-declaration form that is deposited at the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Authority, I know that the EACC have spoken in the media the day before yesterday and said that they clear candidates. EACC has no authority whatsoever in law to clear anyone. They can only investigate you for corruption. So the self-declaration form is for custody by EACC for future investigation should they be necessary. Similarly, the wealth declaration form that public servants leave with their employees is for use only at the time that you're being investigated and they have received a court order asking for the wealth declaration form. So it's important that the media get the facts right. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, let me explain this. Mr. Speaker, there is no harm in somebody being rich. And there is no harm, it is not a crime in somebody being poor. But what I think people expect is just a proper explanation on how, when you declare this is my wealth, what is the source, what is it? The question that has come up is, let's say you have worked for 30 years and you made a wealth of 400 million. And you have worked for 2 years and you have made a wealth of 150 million. So that's the comparison that they are looking at. If you explain how you made that 150, there is no harm, Mr. Speaker. Richness is not a crime, as you say. I agree with you. And poor is dangerous.
Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, this is not even new. When we did the vetting last time, all headlines talked about the billions and the hundreds of millions that the nominees were worth. So I think it's something that maybe the media feels can sell. And because of freedom of media, we can allow them to report it the way they see it.
Curtailing their freedom at all.
Mr. Speaker, I'm aware that Ishungwa is worth 5 billion as of now.
Why are you understating him?
Honorable Speaker, I was wondering why he's understating.
Why are you understating him? Can we break for 10 minutes?
Merudi? Ada na mimi.
Unajua tunawekanga sauti kwa sasa I guess utakuja alafu pia sisi tunaweka nimeweka nini, hebu isikize matiko tu bado na kelele ni watu uoga hapa kwangu, ni watu wanapita alafu unaona hii sauti ndio nimesikiza, nikasikia ilikuwa inang'orota, but nimejua ni kwa nini. Ni huo boy alikuja kumbe akatusikia. Ukisikiza kwanza sikuwa poa yangu. Tunakumbuka
tea sector reforms, even pyrethrum and cotton have a board. Livestock we do not have in this country. People who wake up every morning thinking and implementing issues to do with livestock. Botswana is one of the best countries in livestock farming, implemented by Kenyans. They're the ones who went to do livestock issues in Botswana. So I want to know what you're going to do to see to it that livestock farming is taken seriously. Instead of taxing Kenyans, make money through livestock farming. Lastly, on the Livestock Bill 2024, what will you do as a Cabinet Secretary to communicate properly what it is all about, because we are already seeing a lot of things flying right, left, and center? What strategies will you put in place to ensure you communicate to the public efficiently on the Livestock Bill 2024 and taking their views in? Thank you.
Yes, nominee.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Raisuda. The issue about, yes, interfering with the mandate of the national government and the intergovernmental, I would just like to say that if I'm nominated, approved by this committee, I'm a firm believer in devolution. As I said earlier, if you want sustainable development of agriculture, the counties have to take their role seriously, and they have to work. They have to work. There is no other way. I'm a development economist, and I know that if you don't have structure, institutional framework to support you to do a sustainable development, it will never work. So the counties have to take their mandate. They have to take their roles, give those services. The national government have to take its role of the ministry where I'm going, if I'm approved, the role of policy, the role of regulatory, and also research. Those are the mandates which are to the national government. But the counties have to take that role. And I will do whatever will be in my power to make sure that those delineation and that it becomes very clear. In terms of even fertilizer, that's why I said eventually, gradually, the way to go is to make sure that you decentralize. The procurement should not be done centrally. It should be done with agro dealers. Those are business people who can be able to do procurement. They do it as part of their business. The government can come in and subsidize and give the vouchers. So as I indicated, and I would like to repeat again, I am a firm believer in that issue about sustainable development through counties. Livestock. Yes, livestock is a very critical area. Is one of the critical areas because has a great potential in terms of being able to the livelihood, especially in ASAL areas. And Honorable Member Isuda is to say that I'm lucky that when I'm coming in, if I come in, there is a livestock bill which has been published, and the livestock policy which has been published. So the livestock bill is trying to cure the lacuna which was there, in that we do not have agencies which are promoting livestock matters in the country. So it will create, for instance, try to regulate what is happening in breeding, animal feeds, which members know that there are a lot of issues with animal feeds, quality and others. Create a livestock marketing board, which will be promoting livestock. A research organization dedicated to livestock, although it is between cattle. And institutes. I was surprised to learn that some of the institutes in livestock, like Haiti, which we know, don't have legal status. They are created by. So the livestock bill is trying to do that. And there are issues which are coming through, I know, this information which you will be dealing with, so that when it comes for the necessary hearings and the public hearing, those issues are dealt with. So I think I will give it a lot of priority, the livestock bill, and so that by the time, maybe by next year, we will have some of these institutions in place. Thank you.
Mary now.
Thank you, Chairman. My question to the nominee. The country has suffered recurrent drought, flooding, occasioned by climate change. In the process, we've lost a lot of livestock through starvation, millions of livestock. We've also lost crops through flooding. Some are washed away. Even the crops that manage to survive do not perform well because of too much water. My question is, what mitigation measures can you put in place to reduce the loss of livestock during future droughts? What compensation measures or strategies would you be able to put in place? Because we know that we have livestock insurance, at least areas, livestock farmers can be compensated. What about crops, farmers that lose crops? What are your thoughts? Secondly, in the agricultural sector, we have so many youths who are trained, degrees in agriculture, even PhD in agriculture, extension officer, trained but jobless, so many of them. I don't know if you're aware of that. And we need to be deliberate in employment creation. If you are successful and you become the Minister of Agriculture, what deliberate measures are you going to put in place to ensure that you deliberately placing resources in programs that will create opportunities for these young people? Thank you.
Daud.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. To the nominee, he has mentioned he has been in the coffee sector in the task force. What I would want to put to him is the coffee sector is in turmoil. Prices and theft at the coffee factories are rampant. We need to probably develop new varieties and value addition for coffee. What would be your position on that? Secondly, the Kenya Kwanza government, I believe, they talked about guaranteed minimum returns. And I've seen you have worked with the Kilimo Biashara as well. What would be your take on guaranteed minimum returns for all our products? Lastly, there is a bill I'm co-sponsoring, the livestock theft bill, which is in Parliament. Apparently, the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock has got what is coming up, but instead of them bringing it to Parliament, they say that has to stop before we bring ours. So if you do get confirmed, would you be willing even to be assisted by members of Parliament bringing bills and not stopping bills because the ministry is going to bring? When it is going to bring, we do not know. So those are the few things I would want you to answer.
Go ahead, Dr. Karanja.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Mary, the issue about livestock and climate change. Climate change is a definite threat to agriculture and many other sectors, including energy and others. And it has to be dealt with. Measures have to be taken. And in particular, when you go to livestock, especially where it is practiced in the arid and semi-arid areas, that is where climate change is becoming a big issue due to the persistent droughts. And we have to invest in mitigation and adaptation measures in those areas. For instance, if you go to the northeast counties, Isiolo, Wajir, and others, you realize that over time, the pastoralists have started to realize that pasture conservation is one of the areas which they can invest in. They used to graze and then go. But through interventions, through various programs, you can now see hay being sold in those areas. So some of these mitigation measures are going to be there, especially to change their lifestyle, so that they adopt measures like pasture conservation. And if approved, I am going to promote programs which you do the adaptation especially for livestock sector. For crops, it's also the same. We need measures varieties which are resistant or drought tolerant, varieties which are higher temperature, can withstand higher temperatures, so that as the docket of research is within my mandate, if approved, I will also emphasize on that. We have also to take, for instance, the Kenya Kwanza agenda of planting trees. That is one area where we need to emphasize, because trees, agroforestry and others, is one of the measures which we can be able to mitigate the effects of the climate change. Then in agriculture, I'll also be working closely, if I'm approved, with my counterparts in irrigation. Our agriculture is rain-fed. It is prone to the vagaries of the weather. So we need to invest where we can, with resources allowing, we need to invest in irrigation so that we expand the area under irrigation. Small-scale irrigation programs, which can be able to support farmers so that they are not caught by this, the issue about climate change. Then I think insurance. At the final end of the day, because this is a risk, we need to emphasize both crop and livestock insurance so that farmers are able to be compensated whenever there is an occurrence of that calamity which occurs. Issue about the youth. I indicated earlier that, yes, I'm quite aware of this particular challenge of jobless youth in the country, in the rural areas and everywhere else. And if I'm approved, my undertaking is that, whatever we are doing in all the value chains, the issue about the youth, women, PWDs, people living with disabilities, will be taken care of. Not just taken care of, but we will go out of our way to make sure that and monitor clearly that we are taking care of the youth, the women, and people with disability. Honorable Dawood, the coffee industry, as you have rightfully indicated, I started my career there as an economist. I have also served in the task force and other. Yes, I know there are issues, very major issues in the coffee industry, including legislative one, the bill, the policy, which are still pending. This will be low-hanging fruits. I will be able to handle them if I'm approved, so that we move forward. New varieties and thefts. I work with collaboration with, especially for theft, I work with the collaboration with the interior, so that we are able to see how best we can handle the coffee thefts. Because the coffee thefts are usually promoted and gotten mainly from maybe insider jobs or people who have licenses who can be able to dispose of the coffee. Because you cannot buy coffee. Where do you take it? It has to be that you have a license, you can be able to dispose. So it is something which, with working together with the Ministry of Interior, we will be able to handle. So I will approach it from the policy point of view, having the policy, and I'm also aware that there is a coffee bill, which is before Parliament or Senate. I'm here to take the position very well. So I'll go ahead and do whatever it takes to make sure that that is done. Minimum guaranteed returns for farmers. This is the campaign and Kenya Kwanza in the plan. It needs to be looked into because it involves a lot of, from an economic point of view, it involves a lot of resources. In terms of if you want to guarantee the coffee, tea, you want to guarantee maize, so this one I would say that if I am approved, I will set up the necessary structures to make sure that I get good professional advice on this particular issue and the best way to go forward. But I know it is very important to our farmers. It was in the plan, the Kenya Kwanza plan, so we have to move forward, but cautiously so that we are not, given our financial situation, that we don't overcommit. The livestock and the bills, I would like to handle it from where you, Honorable Dawood, you said, if I'm approved as a cabinet secretary, working with the National Assembly and Senate and every members of national, the honorable members. Whenever a bill, you don't have to oppose a bill because it is coming from another quarter. If it is something which is good, it is bringing something of value on the table, the best approach will be you look and you consult and you do the consultation so that you agree on a common position. You improve on what you have. If it is a bill brought by a private member's motion, you see what is bringing on the table. If the ministry has something else to add, you add. So it is a collaborative effort. I would approach it that way.
Ferdinand.
Thank you very much. Dr. Karanja, you have promised, and please go by that promise, that if you are actually approved by this House, then of course you're going to put some workable and various interventions in the system to be able to move forward as a sector, agricultural sector. One, I want to ask you, what are you going to do? We have failed. There are some projects you actually failed. Kalana Gulalu is one of them that this House or that of the Parliament actually put in a lot of efforts, but it is failed. I want you to tell me what you are going to do. Because you are saying the moment we approve you, you're going to get some of the things that have failed. Two, out here, and I think it's a common knowledge, there's a lot of land fragmentation, the cutting land, reducing the workable land. Agricultural land is actually being subdivided. I'm afraid 20 years to come, maybe you and I won't be there. 20 years to come, there'll be no land for cultivation in this country. And I think I had a chance to go to some of the places like Denmark, where land is actually put aside. So what are you going to do about that to be able to at least stop this fragmentation of the land, subdividing? Of course, if I have like 4 children, each one of them must have a piece of land. Lastly and not least, the most important thing is that agriculture. You have promised, and I hope you will live up to your promise. There's irrigation. Irrigation in this country, I don't know who did this, is misplaced. It's in blue economy. What do you irrigate in blue economy? Blue economy is water. Are you going to have an effort to bring it to agriculture? Because irrigation is actually supposed to be irrigating the products, crops, but not the blue economy.
The meeting is called to order. Rahim, umekubali nini? Namuguka?
I was telling you, no preamble speeches before the question. Because even the candidate gets confused.
Honorable members,
this also, I have a comparative advantage in this, is that I will engage the development partners so that we look at how can we align whatever they are doing in the sector with the priorities in the sector, because that is important. I know sometimes there is a mismatch, and there can be mismatch, but I'm sure we can be able to do that. Red meat.
Daktari, the reason why I raised that question is because of where you are coming from. You still remain a consultant with World Bank, the European Union, and whatever global fund that is there, because you are on their list of those experts who are there. Those programs, when they are being implemented, they are being implemented through NGOs, not communities, not leaders. So as leaders and people's representatives, we are seeing that Kenya is losing money, and that must stop.
Mr. Speaker, sir, the point is well noted, and what I can promise the honourable member is that given my knowledge in that area, I will make sure that community involvement, and you know it's a constitutional requirement these days that we get participation and community involvement so that we maximize the benefits to the communities and where they're coming from, so that we don't just have a project or a program which is Nairobi-based. It should be coming from the grassroots. Livestock, yes.
Speaker, if you allow me to interject. Just on the matter of donor-funded programs, Honourable Nominee, you see, some of these donors come into this country and they become like a joke. And I'll explain to you. Haifa International is one of those big guys, and I can see they're back in Kenya. I saw them on TV yesterday. But Haifa International, so they tell you, you take people for training 3 weeks. My mother actually went for training for Haifa, you know, 3 weeks, and they're being trained every day. They leave everything else productively. They go and train. Then at the end of that training, they give them one goat, a goat, one, whose value, no, but they also do goat. It's just called Haifa, but they also goat. So they give them only one goat, and they continue to train them. A goat which is valued around 4,000 shillings, but they spend so much money that would have been more productive, but they end up with only one goat, and they're told you have to wait for it to give birth so that you give it to the neighbor. Then if that one gives birth, then it gives it to the neighbor, and they think that it's creating wealth. We need to stop to be a subsistent country. You only want people to subsist through donor funding instead of growing wealth. I don't know how you're going to bring this concept that we need to grow wealth in agriculture instead of agriculture for subsistence. Thank you.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I'm seeking your direction because a number of us have not gotten a chance to interrogate the nominee, but I can see a lot of interjection from the previous question.
We are almost getting to you.
Yes, but I just wanted the bad manners to stop, because we also...
Yes.
Yeah, let it come.
Order, Chair.
Wait, I'm on the point of order, sir. I'm on a point of order. Let it become at the tail end after everybody has had an opportunity.
But a correction, an intervention is not bad manners. Can you withdraw that?
Unparliamentary.
Withdraw and apologize.
Yes. Yes, those who have had a go resist the temptation to intervene so that others can also have an opportunity. Yes, Daktari?
Yes, thank you.
So far, so good.
Yeah, so far, so good. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think the point made by honorable members about the donors, that's why I said we need to realign with our priorities. That's the point. If we are talking about value chains, why should we be talking about other things? So I think that is, and if I am approved, is one of the areas which we will engage our development partners so that we align with our priorities, the government priorities and community priorities, so that we move forward. Livestock, beef. Honorable Raso talked about livestock and lead meat. Yes, these are very important. If I have created the impression that it is not, that I have not taken care of it, it is not intentional. Because red meat is actually one of the priority areas. And we have to deal with the issues which are making us not maximize, as I was saying, for instance, the weight, the breeds, disease control. so that this sector can be able to grow and be able to even actually export the animals and the meat. Serve all Kenyans. I want to say, Mr. Speaker, sir, and honorable members, I'm a Kenyan and I will serve all Kenyans. I don't have to be beholden by any maybe where I come from. I will serve all Kenyans. Agriculture is widespread. It comes from the coast to the shores of Lake Victoria, western, eastern. Anywhere you go, it's agriculture and livestock development. So I have to serve all Kenyans.
Sharia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to do a follow-up on this issue of the donor-funded and the World Bank. But mine is coming from a different angle, and most of these projects that are done through the World Bank, they normally tend to collapse at the end of the program and often add the debt burden to our country. How are you going to ensure that these World Bank donor-funded programs and projects and address the fundamental development issues in the country to ensure value for citizens who have to repay or carry the debt burden of the nation? Question number two. Pastoralism, as you said, is a key economic activity in ASAL, areas covering about 80% of Kenya and supporting a third of the population, and holds 70% of the national livestock, faces significant challenges. How do you plan to address, or what measures would you put in place to improve productivity in this sector if approved? I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Let's take Honorable Mishimbogo.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Chairman. Honorable Chairman, the talk of the day is about fake fertilizer, but you are forgetting that we also had fake sugar, or rather poisonous sugar. I remember during the last regime, there was the scandal on poisonous sugar, whereby a large consignment of sugar found its way into Kenya and in several godowns. Our question is, what is the safety of Kenyans in terms of consuming poisonous food products such as sugar? And Honorable Chairman, I know these people are cartels, and they're the same cartels who are sabotaging revival of sugar industry. So when you are confirmed to this docket, how are you going to deal with the sugar cartel? Because this sugar cartel is big, and these people, they have what we call godfathers. They are protected godfathers. And that is why today the sugar industry is not doing very well the way it's supposed to do. We need to do some intervention on that, and let Kenyans hear what you're going to do. My second question, Honorable Chairman, it is about how do we improve in terms of agriculture. I'm looking at the challenges, and one of the challenges is about land. But today, we have vast land in northern, eastern, or rather, ASAL areas. I'm wondering why, for many years, over 50 years from independence, that up to today, we have not done intervention in terms of having new agricultural technologies. We can maybe borrow from countries like Israel, where a bigger part of it is desert, and yet today is a big exporter of fresh produce. What intervention or what measures do you have in place to ensure, as a way forward, we are going to utilize the vast land in northeastern, or rather ASAL areas, so that we are food sufficient in this country? This narrative of saying each and every time that we need to be food sufficient, and yet there are no intervention done. Today, in the same areas, we can have flood, and there's a lot of water, but do we harvest that water? In Tana River today, we have floods. In Budalangi, we have flood, but again, we'll have drought. So how are we balancing that to ensure that we are food sufficient in this country? I thank you, Honorable Chairman.
Let's take Mukami.
Thank you, Chair. Our nominee, my question is regarding new KCC. We have a serious issues in new KCC because the government has been pumping billions of money, and yet the company is not able to sustain itself. if you compare New KCC with Wakulima Dairy in Nyeri or Githunguri Dairy, they are able to pay their farmers within a month. But New KCC, the farmers normally get their payment after 120 days. Like this financial year, the New KCC has made a loss of 1.4 billion. So I want to know, if you happen to get this chance, what are you going to do to make sure that the government is getting value of money? Thank you.
Yes, Dr. can you answer those?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Thank you, Honorable Surrey. Donor funding. I think the big issue here is about sustainability, because when they come, the donor, the World Bank, and other donors come and they do a project, then they leave, then you are left with no sustainability. And one of the reasons why there is no sustainability is because how can you ensure sustainability? If you ask, I'll do that. I will say that one is to have institutions and empowerment of institutions, especially the communities. For instance, you do a water project, an irrigation project. If you don't empower the community to take care of that irrigation project, it will collapse. It will collapse. So we need to inculcate the issue about community participation so that communities are able to participate. Counties are the custodians of communities, especially down there. But most of the time you find a project which comes and the county is not quite engaged. So if I get the nomination, is to ensure that all programs which are coming and being designed, they have sustainability becomes a key plank of them. How do they sustain whatever they are doing? Be it because one of the sustainability is to ensure that whatever you are doing can be economically viable, that you can continue as a. But the others is to the communities, is through counties. Make sure that the counties and the communities have the capacity to take care of what has been invested on. Livestock productivity, I'm sure we have talked about this in terms of making sure that the breeds are there. Disease control is well taken care of. And when I talk about livestock here, I'm talking about both sides, the dairy side and the red meat, especially in the assals. So that, and I talked about even the feed rots, so that you intervene and make sure that we have the right weights for export. Honorable Missy, fake fertilizer, sugar, cartel. When you look at the sugar industry, it has been, we have a deficit of sugar, and that's why the problem starts. We have a big deficit of sugar, ranging, depending on the production, ranging from 300 to 500 metric tons. And this is a lot of sugar, which have to be imported through the COMESA and the other safeguards which are there. So the cartels, we always thrive when our production is not meeting our demand. So one of the measures to actually talk about the sugar industry is what do you need to do in order for you to improve on production. You close the gap so that you are able to manage the quantities which are coming into the country. And definitely there will always be some kind of imports. The issue is about how do you allocate these importation quotas. And the best method is always to be an open method. I know that is maybe challenging in one way or the other, but I'll try as much as possible, if I get approved, to have a competitive method of allocating this, so that the cartels, even if one of the ways of dealing with the cartels is opening the information, transparency. Yes, so that you get that. Vast runs in. Yes, it is there, especially in assals. 70%, almost 70% of our land is in assals. Vast land. It is used. Some of it is used in livestock and other engagements. But the major measure here is what are you doing to make the land more productive? And that is why I was talking about working with irrigation, working with introducing the right technologies so that they are able to do. Getting technologies and also getting examples from other countries like Israel. So if I get approved, definitely this is a resource which I would like to look into, the vast land in Hassal and how it can be done, especially on red meat. Honorable Mukami, New KCC. New KCC happened to be in cooperatives because these are cooperative, and what I can say, it affects agriculture because the farmers are dairy farmers. But the management of KCC is a cooperative. So what I can say is that I engage and very severely on that with my counterpart in cooperatives to look at ways of making sure those issues, management issues, are sorted out, especially farmer payments, because you cannot have payments which are delayed for 6 months, while others are getting like Wakulima and Kilongoli and others are paying on time. So this is one of the interministerial collaboration which I have to seek if I get approved.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, virtually all members of parliament represent farmers, and even those who represent urban areas, somehow their constituency interact with farmers in one way or another. And Mr. Speaker, I want to give you, because I come from a constituency that is taught as the bread basket of the Republic, though there's no bread in the basket, but it's the most highly agricultural constituencies and arable land. And I'll give you a story, when a nominee. One of the large-scale farmers, the few are left because of land fragmentation that has taken place, but the few who are left in Kitale, I interacted with a farmer who did maize for a long time. He left, started doing sugarcane. He left, started doing sunflower. He left and went to avocado. Now I asked him, can I start supplying mushroom, because that's where you are going next? He said, no, I want you to help me do gated communities. Gated communities in a rural area. It's basically people are running away from agriculture. And Mr. Speaker, this is a topic that is so dear because it is directly to the lives of the people. There are success stories across the world. Brazil has done very well in value addition. India, Indonesia, this product called Indomie that is all over the country. Indomie is an Indonesian product, and it's from agricultural products. Do you have a success story that you are going to use to revitalize this ministry? Because it cannot just be stories around. Can you say, this has happened here, and this is how I want to interlink with our country? And then lastly, Speaker, and I hate to repeat, but allow me to repeat on this issue of cartels, because where cartels in agriculture has been misunderstood to mean that there are people you walk in the Ministry of Agriculture and they start firing them. No, it is a convoluted system. In fact, you may find the cartels in agriculture, they're not even Kenyans. They are billionaires of this world. Now, if you just say, I'm walking in to fight cartels, to me, Mr. Speaker, looks like a movie. It's not an adequate enough to convince Kenyans that anything is going to happen. I'll give you an example of our collapsed sugarcane. It is full cartelism. If we sit here and ask you that if after 100 days of you being in the office, are we going to see smoke bellowing out of Mumia sugar, out of Zoya sugar? Can you promise now? And we'll be here to interrogate. Thank you, Speaker.
Daktari.
Thank you, Honorable Hamisi. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Yes, the success stories, we need not to reinvent the wheel. We need to see which countries, agricultural countries has successes. And It's good that Honorable Hamisa have pointed out some of the success stories like Brazil. For instance, the sugar we are talking about. Brazil is very successful in sugar. We talk about dairy. India is very successful in dairy. So we need to learn from no inventing the wheel. And as a principle, if I'm approved, is to say that I'll promote that as a principle, that let's learn from the best. Let's learn from the best. Cartels. This is a major issue, yes. But when you look at cartel, you realize that where cartels thrive is where public interest is compromised. Because if you are compromising public interest, the public interest, for instance, for sugar, is to have sugar producers, especially in Western Kenya and coast, to have their sugar factories operating. If there is a deficit, then we import with at the least cost, so that the consumers also benefit. So it's also a moral question and an integrity question that we need to, as a nominee, and if I get approved, where I'm saying I will fight cartels is that I will do whatever it takes to promote public interest and use the state agencies which are there, which can help me to promote public good and the public interest. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Dr. Let me ask you 2 or 3 questions. Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I ask if there will be smoke billowing out of Mumias in 100 days. He has not said.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, thank you, Mr. Honorable Amisi. I know there is a program for leasing for those factories which is ongoing, which has been initiated. And I know there's a process. I have to check what stage they are in. Sugar is one of the major subsectors. We will look at it and see how we can move it very fast forward.
They are requesting and they are asking to hear from you as a cabinet for agriculture. What plans do you have?
It's just a nominee.
Yes, a nominee.
Yes.
What plans will you have if you are nominated on perishable goods like tomatoes, sukuma wiki, cabbage, in their market at the local end tail market?